Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Got a few minutes here before we get started.
Good morning, Kobe. This is Kokethia.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, I'm on en route from drop off to the office, so I'll be off camera just for a minute, but wanted to log in on my phone. And then I'll
Okay.
transition to being on camera.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Okay, so I see Sarah's here. Commissioner Allender,
I am.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Sadowski. Good morning. Commissioner Rojas, you available?
Yes, sir.
Okay, mind turning your camera on, please? Thank you. Okay, looks like we've got a quorum. I imagine Commissioner Baker and Beasley will join us here in a second. Is Joe available?
He is in a, oh, there he is.
Yes,
There he is.
now.
All right, Joe, you ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all right, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the May 3rd, 2022 City Planning Commission meeting. It's nice to see everybody and thank you for joining us. The City Planning Commissioners understand every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure that we address all of the projects individually with the attention that they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is still virtually, we have time limits in place for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations, 20 minutes for applicant presentations, plus any questions by the commissioners. And then once we move into a public comment stage, please limit comments to 2 minutes when speaking as an individual or up to 5 minutes when speaking on behalf of a community association or larger group. I want to continue reminding everybody we're getting closer to this thing, that the city is still updating the comprehensive plan titled the KC Spirit Playbook. Check out the website, playbook.kcmo.gov for more information. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of draft reports and things. So please look at it and provide your comments as you feel. So we certainly appreciate that. So as we get started with our meeting, I ask staff to provide some ground rules to make sure we conduct the meeting to ensure minimal disruptions and to maximize our clarity. So Joe, if you can remind us of those ground rules, I would certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, all participants in this Zoom call are either attendees or panelists. If you're in a panelist, right now that consists only of the City Planning Commission and city staff. Panelists have the ability to share their audio and video while attendees do not. So if, as we go through the agenda, when a case is called, if you're a member of the applicant's team, please raise your hand right when the case is called, and that'll alert us to promote you over to a panelist position. The same is true if you're a citizen wishing to offer testimony on a case, when the planner is giving a presentation or the applicant is giving a presentation. Go ahead and raise your hand and we'll promote you to a panelist position at that point. When we promote you, it may appear as though you're being kicked off the meeting, but don't worry, you will rejoin us as a panelist, and it will be at that time that you're able to unmute yourself and share your video if you wish. We would just ask that you keep yourself muted until it's your turn to speak, and that you mute yourself when you're done so that we don't pick up any background noise. The other thing to share is that the chat feature in Zoom is intended for questions of a technical nature about Zoom itself or about where we're at on the agenda. It is not to be used for providing commentary on any of the agenda items. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did we lose Kobe?
It looks like we may have, Joe. Let's see.
Oh, here he comes.
Okay, good.
We're done, Kobe.
Okay.
We finished the movie.
Sorry about that. I got kicked off. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Let's go ahead and start our meeting then, Joe. Let's begin with the consent agenda items, beginning with those that doesn't look like we'll have any continued. So let's go ahead and open up the consent agenda items, please.
We actually do, since yesterday, have two continuances in the docket items C1 and C2. Would you like me to read those quickly, separately?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay. Docket item C1 is case number CPC 2022-00002. This is a request to approve a project plan for Providence Point, which is located at the northwest corner of Eastern Avenue and Northeast 111th Street. And docket item C2, case number final plat 2021-00064. This is a final plat for the same development. In both cases, we're requesting continuance to May 17th without fee.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commission regarding docket item C1 or C2 and their continuance to May 17 without fee? Okay, seeing none. So let's go ahead and open it up then for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items C1 or C2 and we're in the continuance of those two cases, please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close public testimony and I'll take a motion on continuance of those cases, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue case C1, C2 to May 17th. Was that without fee?
That's correct.
Yeah, without fee.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second. Second came from Commissioner Sadowski. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Yes. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like motion passes in for docket item C1 and C2 to be continued to May 17th. So let's go ahead and open the rest of the consent agenda items, please.
All right. The next case is docket item C3, case number final plat 2021-00058. This is a request to approve the third plat for Davidson Farms, which is located on the north side of 76th Street between North Flintlock on the east and Shoal Creek Parkway on the west. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. Docket item C4, case number final plat 2022-00011. This is a request to approve the fourth plat for Green Hills Plaza, which is located at the southeast corner of North Green Hills Road and Northwest Berry Road. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. C5 is case number final plat 2022-00019. This is a request to approve a final plat for 9700 North Oak, which is at the aforementioned address. And that concludes consent docket. I'm sorry, staff is recommending approval with conditions of that last one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items C3, C4, or C5? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items C3, C4, or C5, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one's raising their hand.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion for approval of those cases, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve case C3, C4, C5 as per written on the docket.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second for approval of those three docket items. Lisa, can you take roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes in 6-0. So that takes us through our consent agenda items. So Joe, let's go ahead and start working through any cases we need to continue to a future meeting on our regular docket.
That'll be docket items 1 through 3, and the rest look like they will be heard today. So we'll start with docket item 1.1, which is case number CPC 2021-00171, a request to rezone property at 31st, southeast corner of 31st and Main from District R0.5, R1.5 to B and R1.5 to B3-2. Docket item 1.2 is a companion case, case number CPC 2021-00220, a request to amend the Midtown Plaza area plan for the same property at the southeast corner of 31st and Main to change the recommended land use from medium density residential and mixed use neighborhood to commercial. And docket item 1.3, case number CPC 2021-00221, a request to approve a development plan, which also serves as a preliminary plat to allow for the construction of a parking garage for non-accessory parking in a mixed-use building for office, medical office, retail, and education uses located at the southeast corner of Main and 31st Street. The applicant is requesting continuance of all three cases to May 17th, and staff is recommending with fee. Docket item 2 is case number CPC 2021-00245. This is a request to rezone property from B3-2 to B4-2 on about 1 acre at 5021 Prospect Avenue. The applicant is requesting continuance and staff recommends without fee to May 17th. Docket item 3.1 is case number CPC 2022-00040. This is a request to approve a rezoning from District R7.5 to District R5 on about 7 acres located at the southeast corner of Northeast 104th and Northeast Cookingham Drive. And docket item 3.2, case number CPC 2022-00041, a request to approve a development plan in District R5 and R7.5 to allow for 258 detached lots and 140 multifamily units on 140 acres at the southeast corner of 104th Street, Northeast Cookingham Drive. In both 3.1 and 3.2, the applicant is requesting continuance and staff recommends without fee to May 17th. And that concludes the continuances.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any questions from the commission regarding 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 3.1, or 3.2?
So on number 2, do we have any idea what they're trying to do there?
What do you mean, as far as the case or the project?
Yeah,
Or-
the others give us some indication of what the project will be. I don't see where this is telling me anything other than rezoning.
Yeah, that's all we know at this point in time, and just we're looking to continue that to a future meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2, 3.1, or 3.2, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair, I promoted Patricia Jensen, and I believe she's here for docket item 3.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, my name is Patricia Jensen and I am the applicant's representative for docket item 3. I wasn't able to reach Olafu yesterday, but I think this case should be continued to June 7th rather than May 17th. We are working on some revised plans in response to our neighborhood meeting, and we haven't turned those in yet. So I think it will take until June 7th to review those by the staff.
Okay. All right, any thoughts from that, staff? Is that okay?
No, that makes sense.
Okay,
We're
all
fine with that.
right, thank you. Anybody else out there that would like to speak regarding the docket items that are currently open?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I will take a motion from the commission, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to continue docket item 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 to May 17th, docket item 2, with fee to May 17th, docket item 2, continuance without fee to May 17th, and docket item 3.1 and 3.2 to June 7th without fee.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for continuance of those docket items as read. Lisa, can you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like it, motion passes for 7-0 for continuance of docket items 1 to May 17th with fee, docket item 2 to May 17th without fee, and docket item 3 to June 7th without fee. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and start on docket item 4.1 and 4.2.
Docket item 4.1 is case number CPC 2021-00247. A request to approve an amendment to a previously approved preliminary plat for Villa Meadows, which is located in District R7.5 on 13 acres, located at the terminus of the East 89th Terrace, east of West Ridge Road. And companion case docket item 4.2 is case number CPC 2022-00046. This is a request to approve a rezoning from District R80 to District R7.5 for the same project. Matthew Barnes is our staff planner.
You're still on mute, Mr. Barnes. Still muted.
There we
you
go. Sorry, it was frozen on me. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Before us, we have docket item 4, case number CD CPC 2021-247, the revised preliminary plat, and CD CPC 2022-00046, a rezoning from R80 to 7.5 for Villa Meadows, located at 12402 Brickyard Road. It's the second plat. The site is generally located to southeast of Raytown near Blue Parkway and at the southern end of Kansas City. Closer view of the subject property outlined in yellow there. It is surrounded by an existing golf course and is connected to Villa Meadows first plat, which is seen just to the left of the yellow outline as East 89th Terrace. And here's the original approved preliminary plat. You can see that it does have a connection towards the south there, towards Brickyard Road. And it consists of 35 lots. This was approved back in, I believe, 2003. The applicant is proposing a revised preliminary plat due to the floodplain that the site sits on. And that's why this case is before you. We'll go into what changes they are made here. They're wanting to shift the development to the northwest. When the development is shifted, it will also encroach into the R80 zoning that is seen at the top left of the screen. The applicant is requesting rezoning of the 2,104 square foot area to R7.5. You can see it outlined in blue just at the bottom of the screen there. Here's the revised preliminary plat. The applicant is proposing 24 total lots, less than the originally approved preliminary plat. The applicant is also removing the vehicular connection from Brickyard Road due to the floodplain. The applicant can speak more on the engineering issues that they've encountered trying to design a connection. However, they have agreed to provide a 20-foot wide emergency access road, which will additionally serve as a pedestrian connection that is seen here in red down to Brickyard Road. Additionally, they are proposing a knuckle turnaround for emergency vehicles halfway down the proposed second plat at the end of the proposed emergency access road. The neighborhood representatives have reached out to me last night and requested that the 2 conditions be added. The representative stated that during the public engagement meeting, the developer was open to these requirements. The first one is that the developer place signs at the entrance to East 89th Terrace off of West Ridge Road stating no construction traffic. And the second is that the developer ensures that all construction traffic utilizes the 20-foot emergency access road from Brickyard to access the site. Staff is supportive of these conditions. Staff recommends for CD CPC 2021-00247 approval with conditions for the revised preliminary plat, and CD CPC 2022-00046 approval for the rezoning. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the commission to city staff regarding docket item 4.1 or 4.2?
So I'm guessing that the fire department's okay with the emergency access road and the turnarounds?
Yeah, they have a letter that they've submitted. It was from the previous fire chief, as I understand, that they were okay with it, and believe the current is okay with it also.
Okay, any other questions?
Matt, any discussion with the, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, any discussion, see, again, we've got detention basins versus maybe looking at some green infrastructure here, seeing it's a residential facility. So any discussion around green infrastructure versus detention ponds?
The applicant might be able to speak more on that. We haven't discussed it with them.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about, so lots 41, according to what I'm looking at, lots 41 through 45 are in a floodplain. So those areas would be flooded. I'm trying to understand why we're, in particular, some of those like 42, 43, those would most definitely flood those homes. Can you speak to why we are approving that?
The applicant may be able to speak more on the engineering issues that they have encountered. I do believe they have some, and they've submitted a floodplain study as well. But they may be able to speak more on if those will be impacted after grading and all that.
Okay. So do we have, I guess I'm just maybe not understanding what's in front of us. Do we have a map that shows how the floodplain has been mitigated?
They submitted a floodplain. Let me try to find that and see if I can pull it up. And they may have that on the applicant may have that ready.
And I'm seeing some what appears to be new grading lines, but I'm trying to reconcile that with where that dashed line of the floodplain is and if that changes the location of the floodplain.
Pulling that up right now.
Okay.
That is a good point, because there's a lot of work going on in the Blue River to essentially mitigate the floodplain, and it's extremely costly. So I don't know if that's be good to get some clarity.
And we're now at a point with our precipitation that the 100-year floodplain will most definitely flood in the lifetime of any home that's built now.
Let me share my screen here. Okay. This is what they submitted for review.
This is the preliminary grading plan, or this is?
This is the preliminary buffer plan.
Okay.
That includes the floodplain. The that line that is shown as the existing 1% floodplain, which 42 and 43 and part of 41 will be in, and 45 and 44 actually.
Well, we can have the applicant speak to it. I just wasn't seeing how that was working.
Yeah, if you can kind of hold that up, Matt, then let's go ahead and welcome the applicant to the case. Is the applicant available?
Applicant should be Don Hathaway, and I saw he was online.
Okay. Has he been promoted to where he can speak?
Yeah, he's been promoted.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Hathaway. As you come off mute, can you state your name and address for the record, please? Actually, still don't see him.
I don't see him either.
He's on the attendees list now. Maybe he's just been promoted.
Didn't accept the promotion. I'm gonna send it to him again.
Okay. He's been promoted, so,
He's been connected now.
okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Don. If you could take yourself off mute, that'd be great.
That work?
There you
Can
go.
you hear us now? All
Yeah.
right. Finally, we have a connection. Good morning, Don Hathaway, the Weiskirk and Parks Engineers. With me here today also is Mr. Jeff Vance, the owner and developer of the project. I heard there you had many questions on some of the issues. We have done a detailed study and survey of the floodplain based on the regulatory elevations in the area. The first biggest question is that we are in a floodplain fringe area, which does allow fill in the floodplain. That allows for minor amounts of fill that will not raise the floodplain and the floodway more than 1 foot by FEMA's regulations. The drawing you have up is the preliminary stream buffer plan, which has 2 sides to it. The view up on the screen today shows if the stream buffer was to be applied to the property, what would happen. And based on the floodplain location, that would be the extent of the middle zone. And then the dashed line and hatched area would be the outer zone area. Our responses to city staff on this particular issue is that the existing area is a golf course, which is a non-conforming use in the stream buffer areas. And therefore, the stream buffer area doesn't apply on this property. You can't dedicate a stream buffer over a non-conforming use that's not allowed in the stream buffer. To the left on the screen, if you can pan over, is what we show as what's proposed. And that would be to file a letter of map amendment, letter of map revision based on a Lomar F, which is fill in the floodplain, which again is allowed in the floodplain fringe areas. We're not in the floodway, allowing for that floodplain to be pushed out, back out into the open space and golf course and reclaim lots 41 through 45 of the development. That placing the floodway areas, floodplain areas out into golf course uses where they've been all along. Now, the dedication of the stream setback rules and buffer, we again contend do not apply to this property. It can't exist on a golf course property as a non-conforming use. And the residential subdivision being previously planned in this area would not survive that test if the outer zone was to be applied to all these lots. We'd lose nearly half of the lots in the development. The other questions having to do with the roadway to Brickyard Road was approved without the connection by the fire department. We have negotiated with staff and discussions for a emergency access road, which we've used on other projects and are used in commercial developments many times to provide adequate ingress and egress for emergency vehicles in the event of a non-travelable access from another road due to accidents or some other issues. So we've circumvented that issue with staff. I think that's a good compromise to provide emergency access into the property. With the building of the connection road to Brickyard would have caused for approximately 4 feet of fill to be compliant with infrastructure improvements in the floodplain. They have to be elevated to compliant levels, just like the lots are required to be elevated to compliant level to build them. That would be a road that extends about 4 feet higher than the existing pavement at Brickyard Road. So it's a unique case where we have a approved preliminary plat. The lots were planned to be built here all along. The changing of the floodplain map pushed the floodplain up and into what was a compliant area for houses. And we seek just to comply with the FEMA and city ordinance requirements for floodplain management to elevate these homes to a safe elevation of the floodplain plus 1 foot freeboard. Any questions for us?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding with the Brickyard Road piece. You said that you would like to maintain it at its existing elevation rather than bring it up to 4 feet higher based on FEMA regulation. Am I understanding what you were saying correctly?
It's actually a city ordinance that requires that any public infrastructure that's constructed be compliant with the regulations, as well as would be a house or a commercial building. The road doesn't actually have to be above the floodplain. It could be right at the floodplain. There are provisions in APWA that allows for some water to flow over a road. Engineering staff can probably confirm that, but I believe it's 6 or 7 inches, enough that vehicles can still pass. And that's provided you put guardrails on both sides of the road. So in this case, you wouldn't be able to build single family homes on that road. And even at that elevation, it would be higher than Brickyard Road. So we wouldn't be able to connect to Brickyard if it's built compliant with floodplain elevations. The lots that would be built there and the subsequent required stormwater management would be infeasible, because we would again be at or below that with the stormwater management, say detention basins, and you can't put those in floodplain areas either. They wouldn't work adequately. The road you see proposed is approximately 6 feet higher than the floodplain elevation, allowing for the lots to be elevated. There's an 810 contour near the cul-de-sac that's in your screen. The floodplain in this area was approximately 804, 803 to the east. So we've elevated that up to match the hill to the north side of the development and elevate all the lots up above floodplain. This is a unique case where even in your cul-de-sac length code, it takes provisions on properties that have no other access, extreme terrain issues, which on one side you have a big hill, on the other side you have a floodplain, very restricting topography in this area.
And I don't know if this is a question for you or staff, but I'm just trying to understand if this wasn't a golf course and if it was, you know, a clear case of a stream buffer, would this revision of the topography against those lots 41 to 45 be in compliance, or is that sort of intervention usually allowed? This might be a staff question.
I am trying to see if Casper is online. I believe, or someone from water might be best suited to answer that.
Okay.
I can answer from an engineering standpoint. In the past, we have had many cases of fill in the floodplain fringe to effectively comply with ordinance requirements. The stream buffer now that extends to the floodplain limits for the middle zone complicates that in all of those cases. Yes.
Can you elaborate on that when you say it complicates it?
If the stream buffer is dedicated to the limits of the current floodplain, then we would not be allowed to put that fill in.
Okay.
Now this, to my knowledge, is the first case that's come up whereby we have a non-conforming stream setback usage on the ground adjacent to the development where we can't dedicate the stream setback, combined with a case of floodplain that we want to mitigate to effectively develop what was originally approved on the preliminary plat. A legal condition with respect to FEMA's requirements, a legal condition with respect to the floodplain ordinance 60.3 adopted by the city of Kansas City, but a conflict with stream setback requirements in another area of their code.
Got it. Okay, that helps. Thank you. Did you do a study in terms of, I mean, just understanding that these lots are going to have more impervious surface than a golf course would, knowing that a golf course is, turf grass is not a perfect solution for stormwater, but.
Yes, we do. And we did, you see the detention basins just to the northeast of lot 41 and just southeast of lots 49 through 46. Again, we've elevated the ground, which elevates the top of berm of that those detention basins, allowing for the stormwater from the new development to run in and have pipes that come out into the existing. There's a pond there called existing basin that will be discharging flows to the golf course. They use that water as irrigation water for the golf course. So we'll be cleaning it, storing it, and providing the required stormwater detention for the new development.
Just on that question, did you have a look at green infrastructure versus just detention ponds?
Excuse me, what was that?
Did you have a look at comparing green infrastructure versus just detention ponds with regards to stormwater management?
We will comply with the water quality elements of storing and filtering and discharging the lower flows. So yes, we're taking into account all of the regulatory requirements for stormwater treatment.
But to put a green infrastructure feature versus just a detention pond, did you have a look at that?
It will be required to have the necessary seed. There'll be some landscaping provided around the perimeter, seed and mulch type of treatment to the basin. Most of these are preferred to be mowed, but a landscaping element in the adjacent park area will work well with the golf course as well. We haven't done any landscape plans yet.
Okay. I get to a stage where we just seem to be developers are putting detention pond. Maybe this is a comment back with the commission, but it seems to me that developers are not looking at green infrastructure at all in their development.
I have a follow-up question, which is, and I'm not sure, John, if you're able to answer this, but for those lots that do encounter a floodplain, and I realize that is mitigated by your grading, is there any repercussions in terms of those homeowners being aware of that floodplain being mitigated? Is there insurance affected by that? Anything that would allow them to understand that that lot may not be as valuable, frankly, as some of the other lots, because you're depending on that topography to mitigate that floodplain?
I mean, the record drawings of this development, of course, will be available to anybody wanting to purchase and do due diligence on purchase of a lot. They're made public record for that reason. The goal here is to meet FEMA and the city's adopted requirements from FEMA to elevate those lots above the flood danger zone. We always, as floodplain managers, recommend to people anytime you're adjacent to a floodplain that flood insurance is still a good idea, whether it's mandated or not. Now, FEMA provides flood insurance for homes like this, but at a much, much reduced rate. If any of you are aware, anybody that's got a home that's currently existing in a floodplain fringe or flood area, It gets quite expensive for flood insurance. Once we've met the minimum requirements mandated by the federal government and the city to elevate these lots above the floodplain, the construction is then certified by a elevation certificate where we shoot the elevation of the lowest elevation of the building to certify to the city on the floodplain development permit and on to FEMA that the house was built in compliance and has a minimal amount of risk of flooding. And those documents are part of the closing documents for the property and the certificate of occupancy issued by the city.
Okay, thank you, Don. That's clarifying.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant?
I have a curiosity question because this is the case where the neighborhood asked for signage for the construction traffic to come down a certain way.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so was there any discussion with the neighborhood regarding this flood zone and these lots that we're actually looking at?
Yes, we had discussions with the at the neighborhood meeting at Teetering Rocks Golf Course regarding filling the floodplain. One particular issue is that if the connection to Brickyard Road was made at an elevated fashion, that could have a negative impact. That would be enough of a restriction in that part of the channel, even though it's floodplain fringe. We would need to do a substantial study to verify we're not raising any floodplain to the west where there are homes that are currently in the floodplain. This particular area is a backwater area north of the primary floodway of White Oak Creek. And the fill in this area is it's going to displace a relatively small amount of ponded water, about a 2 feet or so in depth over an average of those lots. And we'll raise them up a little higher than that, but it's not encroaching that much into the floodplain and certainly not the floodway conveyance sections for the White Oak Creek. So yes, we did discuss it. They're aware of what we're proposing to do and that these particular lots would be potentially encumbered. We did do an expanded, Amy Bennell in her review of the preliminary plat sent us and brought to our attention the location of the floodplain in this particular area. We had done previous preliminary shots of the ground and plotted the floodplain elevation based on the sectional elevations provided by FEMA. We went out and did a resurvey, a lot more detailed survey of it. And somewhere between what FEMA had and what we had before is what you see on here. And we're very comfortable now. This would be a final elevational survey of the ground out there that we'll be submitting to FEMA for the mitigation of those lots.
Mr. Hathaway, I think I have one additional question. For those neighbors that were in attendance, their current property is situated how to what we're looking at now?
They were already built elevated, even though the floodplain didn't extend to their properties or even much into this property at all when that was developed. Their access out to West Ridge Road and the elevation of the hill on the north side of those lots prompted the grading of that original subdivision. And we didn't do that work, but it was done correctly. And again, to raise it so we'd have a detention basin above the ground that's there so it could flow out. We can't make water flow uphill yet, but that created a scenario where those lots were automatically elevated to a point where they're out of floodplain today.
So they're south and east or south and west of the current plat we're looking at, or are they north of this?
Mostly
that's
west.
What I'm trying to figure. They're west of it?
Yeah, the curve in that road turns and heads straight west over to West Ridge Road.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. I had one other comment, obviously regarding the stream setback requirements that we're requesting here, and that they be waived because of the golf course. I know that's something that must go to the city council, I believe, for an approval of that particular item. And Matt, I'm not sure if you or legal counsel can advise us on how we proceed forward at the planning commission level. I would assume it would be with your recommendations only. But because that particular item can't be approved by planning commission, as I understand it.
Joe, do you know about that?
I didn't catch the first part of your question.
Well, Joe, it has to do with we have on this project a request for waiver of the stream setback due to these existing golf course, the nature and conditions of the property. And again, this is kind of new territory. So what we wanted to do today also is clarify to the best of your ability the approval process, if you so desire to approve this project, on a recommendation to council, I guess, to proceed with that waiver of stream setback requirement. The project essentially doesn't survive if, in fact, the city mandates that the stream setback is to be provided. Then we've got a encumbrance on a golf course that's been there for many years that can't survive. So
we'll probably have to confirm that at a later date, but the only exceptions or waivers to the stream buffer ordinance that I'm aware of is there's one type that can be granted by the Director of Water Services, and then the rest have to be granted by the city council, and the ones that are granted by council require a separate application, separate from the plat. So, you know, since we're already at planning commission with the preliminary plat, we'll go ahead and take the plat forward to city council. But if this is a particular type of waiver that requires council action, we'll have to submit a separate ordinance request for that.
okay, that was my question. Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to look at that waiver as part of the conditions now, instead of waiting till down the road, just to save a little time?
Well, I think it would be prudent, in our opinion, if you so desire, to approve this, and that would give us the notice to move forward with those additional applications and preparation for council's hearing on the matter.
Yeah, I guess just what I'm asking is if that waiver should be included as part of this preliminary plat, so that as it moves forward to the council, then you know whether or not that actual waiver would be considered by them and approved before you move on to the next steps as well. But you can do that as a separate application. That's true.
I think if you guys, if you're in favor of the development as we proposed it, I think that says to the council, you know, that we have your blessing. Yes, there's no formal stream setback variance requested. In our opinion, the stream setback can't be applied here because it's a golf course. They're non-conforming issues. They don't work with each other. If we can't file a stream setback over the golf course, then there's no outer zone, there's no stream setback, and there's no waiver request. It's more a zoning review item, but as I understand it, that's for the council to decide, and we'll take it up at that level.
Is Luke Casper, are you available?
Sorry, I was trying to get unmuted. Yes, I'm available. Good morning.
Okay. Have you been kind of sitting in on this case, Luke?
Yes.
So the key is what about the stream buffers, and because it's adjacent to the golf course, they're trying to say that the stream buffer ordinance is not applicable in this particular situation. However, there are some conditions on this particular project regarding stream buffer, setbacks, easements, and so on. So we're just
Correct.
trying to figure out here, moving this forward, because now he's asking me for a waiver of that particular thing. Not to have this actual stream buffer piece.
Yeah, I was looking at the conditions and it looked like Stacy initially did this case and had the stream buffer conditions on there. I came in, of course, after that point, but we did have a meeting between, it was, I believe, myself and Amy Bunnell and Mr. Hathaway regarding the stream buffer. I was also, had the same questions regarding the lots at the north end of the cul-de-sac there with the floodplain, because our current floodplain mapping shows the majority of that extension to the north as being in a floodplain, which would be applicable to our stream buffer. So I don't think that the golf course being there has anything to do with how we look at the stream buffer when we review it. We look at it for where the 100-year floodplain is, which is the blue line on the parcel viewer. If you'd like, I could share that screen, but I don't know how to do it on this particular deal. But on the parcel viewer with the regulated streams and the floodplain, the blue shaded area is the 100-year floodplain, which we typically require them to come 75 feet parallel to that limit of the 100-year stream buffer. There's definitely a stream buffer there, and I'm pretty sure that when we talked with Amy that, she's also got like the floodplain reviews that she does for the floodplain certificates. And it came up and they had mentioned that they would need to do, the LOMAR, which I believe that in order for them to do what they're doing, the stream buffer would need to be, realigned, or the outer zone of that 100-year, the middle zone boundaries, which is the blue lines there. Well, our stream buffer is 75 feet outside of that to the west, which would give that area that can be disturbed, 40% of that outer zone area can be disturbed, which is the area moreover, on the left side of the blue there on the screen. And so, it would probably take the LOMAR, as far as what I am hearing from Water Services and what I see, that blue line would have to be formally remapped outside of there. And then they would need to show that the disturbance on the lots that they have, along adjacent to that buffer area would be, would need to be show that they're under 40% disturbed area in that outer zone of the buffer. So, there is the stream buffer, final stream buffer condition that would ultimately have to be reviewed by us. But I would think that would also require a modification to the final plat, because it's ultimately going to change the boundaries on that easement and the stream buffer area there. So I feel like the stream buffer would still apply to this area, that the golf course being there doesn't necessarily exempt the stream buffer, but that's my opinion.
Okay, and then so if the applicant wanted to seek a waiver from the council on the stream buffer plan, they could probably, work with the council on that, but yet you're still dealing with the LOMAR that you have to, because it is a stream that's under the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers. Correct?
I think that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And really, we can't give a stream buffer permit until that LOMAR process has taken place, which is gonna be a lengthy process. I don't know if they've started that process or that application yet. I'm not sure.
No, we haven't, Luke. The purpose, again, of our meetings here is to get some nod of approval for the project. And these are real good information for us as well. And that, where are those limits going to be? Are we going to waive the stream buffer? Are you going to hold us to the stream buffer and the 75-foot outer zone being mitigated off the property? And it may be to meet the 40% in other areas. We've got an existing detention basin to our southwest that can't be moved, and its floodplain is just outside the boundaries of the project land there. But the 75 foot, as you're saying, would apply, which would encumber a large portion of those lots. So if the stream setback isn't waived entirely on this project, it does put an extreme hardship on the developer, but not to say it can't be done. That's what we're looking for, is guidance on what are we going to be allowed to do. We know the LOMAR is an allowable ordinance required floodplain mitigation tool, as Amy brought up, and we've done them before, and we think it applies here. It's just the limits that we have to take it that we would need probably some additional guidance on that would come from the city council level and their approvals on how to move forward with it.
Yeah, because it sounds to me, and I'm just speaking as one commissioner here, that it's an either or. You know, you either go through the LOMAR and then get a waiver from the council on the stream buffer, or you just maintain the stream buffer ordinance as stated and try to design around it accordingly.
I think the issue is the floodplain, and whether, I don't think we're opposed to more homes, but the main issue is whether you can build those homes in that stream buffer in the floodplain, right? And gathering from the conversations that we're having right now, I don't think that's clear. So I don't feel comfortable moving forward on this to give an indication of support, because I think the support hinges on whether staff is comfortable with the current plan when it comes to the flood, or when it comes to the stream buffer. So I would.
Mr. Chair, can I provide a comment real quick that I'm not sure that might distill this down to what's at stake here, or what the question is here. What Matt is showing here on this map in yellow boundary is the final phase or final plat that could be filed today. They currently have an approved preliminary plat that allows this area to be developed. The only reason that a revised final preliminary plat is before you today is because this developer does not want to build the street down to Brickyard Road. So that necessitates a major amendment. In the course of doing the major amendment, they're actually shifting the phase slightly northward because they're not having to build that street connection. And the result of that is that they are reducing it by 11 lots. And in my evaluation, they're pulling more of the lots out of the floodplain. So I think it does open up a lot of the questions being asked, and I think it's a good discussion. But I do think ultimately this is better than what they're proposing currently is better from a impact perspective than what they're already entitled to do. And we can show you that approved plat for that current phase if you would like to see it.
I have a question. Toby, I'm just probably waiting for it to come back, but I'll ask it now because it's on my mind. Is this a project that the developer would have to indemnify the city if there was flooding on those properties? Sarah, I just can't remember. There was a case up north where there was indemnification required, and I just can't remember the conditions of that.
Yeah, no, that's right. That is not a requirement in the code. That is something that the city council decided to add to a couple of, I think they did it more than once. So that could certainly be something that would come up at council again. But as it stands, that's not a standard code requirement.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
So Joe, just looking at this, and I agree that it is much better than what they had previously platted. But are you saying that at this point, because they are entitled to intervene in that stream buffer easement, that decision sort of has already been entitled to them?
Yeah, that's right. Since this was approved in the past, it's obviously an older development, but because it's been mostly developed, they are entitled to file a final plat as long as it matches what you see here for this final phase. And they would be able to have that approved. And in my opinion, I don't think that the Planning Commission or Council would really have the ability to dictate otherwise, because we've previously said that this is allowable. The only reason they're changing things now is because that street connection.
Okay.
You see is it's being removed.
So in the original one we're looking at, the street connection was there.
Right.
But Joe, on clarification, this was approved in 2003, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a long period between 2003 and 2022. So you're saying we can't change anything?
This gets down to just the development rights given to the property owner. And in 2003, they were given the right to do this, as shown here. And they still have those rights. They're asking for an amendment today, and I think we have the right today to impose new requirements on them. But if this commission and the council choose to impose new requirements or to deny this, they can turn around and file a final plat that complies with this, and I do believe we would have to approve it.
So what I'm hearing is that the plan before us today is the lesser of two evils, and
I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other necessarily, because I do think there's a lot of technical questions that are important and worth discussing. But I also, if it helps the commission make a decision on how to proceed today and how to weigh in on whether a waiver should be given on the stream buffer, I just wanted to point out that what was approved in 2003, they could go ahead and build that. And I think that would be, given what I'm hearing from all of you, I think that would be more concerning to you than what they're proposing currently.
Agreed.
Yep.
I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add the comment that in 2003, the stream buffer ordinance was not adopted yet. That's what would allow that to be that way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation because I do truly believe that those lots, despite the topography accommodation, are more likely to flood and are really very likely to flood because we're dealing with unprecedented storm occurrences. So, you know, we all know how things have been designed to FEMA regulation and not worked out for folks. So I think I'm very concerned about those lots. But if we're looking at a scenario where this new plan is most definitely a better flood mitigation strategy than the one we're looking at in front of us, I'm willing to say that that's the direction we should go. But it's not ideal by any means. And I think back to Bruce's point, I wish we could consider more green infrastructure to, you know, I would ask Don, as you're putting together your landscape plan, to really think about what other things can you do in the spaces you have for landscape to provide additional buffering in those zones. What I would consider belt and suspenders in terms of the engineering, but might be the only solution that'll solve the flooding issue.
And so noted, and at the time of final design, we'll look at you know, the elevation of the lots. Right now we show them at above the 1 foot freeboard requirement for the rear of the lots. Again, the front of the lots, the main portion of the house. And you can't waterproof in flood prone areas in single family, but that's up almost 6 feet above floodplain. There is a potential we could elevate those areas even more in the rear of those houses to accommodate, say, the 500-year flood. It only takes an additional foot or so to accommodate that. And then you're very reasonably safe from flooding. So those are some things we'll take a look at on final design.
Yeah, I would definitely consider that. If you could get it just a foot up to get above that 500, that I think would
But
give
again,
us all more peace of mind.
Our goal here is to build homes, quite a few less than was originally planned, as has been stated, and the first plat was filed and built. So in the amendment process, we want to build something that fits with the land, works well with the golf course. And I think giving some of this land back to the golf course is a positive effect in that area, and build some homes that are well niched into that hillside and look good from all aspects of the development area.
I would like to go a little further than just consideration. I would like to put a condition in there that the green infrastructure versus the detention basin analysis is done prior to final plat approval. We've had a number of cases go through where we haven't been able to have any say on green infrastructure because the projects are so developed. But this one's a preliminary plat, and I would like to see the developer at least show us why they can't put more green infrastructure in, especially if they're developing their landscape planning at this point in time.
I support that request.
Agree.
We just have to be careful how much green infrastructure, because there's only so much that's required by the city and that is a standard. I know we'd like to have that, but I've been reminded a few times that, green infrastructure is not totally 100% a requirement or a standard within the city. So we can only do what's being asked through the city standards.
I understand that, Kobe, but my view is the city is going through climate change planning and so forth as well. So, we've got to change the policy. There's no doubt on that, but I would encourage at least the developers to come back and show a plan around why they're doing detention ponds. And if they're complying with policy, we can't do much about it, but at least I want the developers to start to consider it versus just give us detention ponds every development.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant here? We need to get to the public testimony, then come back and summarize all this back up. All right, so at this time, if there's anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding docket items 4.1 or 4.2, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon. Matt, do you mind stop sharing the screen, please, so we can see everybody? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we've promoted Jim Martin.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jim Martin. I live at 12,001 East 89th Terrace, Kansas City, Missouri, at the end of the street in question. I'm an officer and director of the Villa Meadows Homeowners Association, and I want to thank Matt for keeping us up to speed on everything. Thank you. One question first. Will that emergency 20-foot wide access road be paved or gravel?
The fire department requires it to be a non-gravel surface, pavement, chip and seal, something of that nature.
Thank you. Second, during our public engagement, we mentioned that Mr. Kevin Easley, Raytown School District Transportation Department Manager, stated they would not route a school bus into that cul-de-sac. The stop can move only if there's a connection to Brickyard Road. We would request that 20-foot wide fire apparatus access road also that buses be allowed. Currently, Westridge Road traffic speeds usually in excess of 40 miles an hour through a 25 zone, fails to slow at the Military Club Road stop sign. One school bus full of elementary school children was run off the road and hit a power pole already. The kids have to cross Westridge Road to debark the bus and get on it. It's extremely dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else out there, Joe, that would like to speak from the public regarding docket item 4.1 or 4.2?
No, Mr. Chair, I don't see anyone else.
Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. So applicant, it looks like there's a couple of requests here. You know, the roadway, I think it's understood that it will have according to the conditions in there, that the street has to have some kind of finish on it or surface coat that's all weather encompassing. And then the question came up about whether school buses were able to utilize that road as part of picking up and dropping off kids. I really can't answer that one. Any thoughts on that?
I'll just add one comment. In our review comments, there was also a request for a trail at the very northeasterly end cul-de-sac. At that position, that access point is for maintenance of the detention basin, not as a pedestrian access. Even though code says pedestrian accesses shall be provided to extend at the ends of cul-de-sacs to the development infrastructure, this is a golf course, not a hiking trail. And it also further goes to state that, you know, in the event of dangerous conditions, that can be waived. That would be no different on the 20-foot road going to Brickyard Road. That would be there for emergency use vehicles. Those men have hard hats on. They're in a ambulance or a fire truck. There's usually a knock box at the roadway that the fire department uses to access the emergency roadway. If we open it up to public use, we open it up to public use. That's not the intent here. I can't go halfway. And with a golf course there, I doubt very seriously the golf course is going to allow buses to traverse through that golf course. Now, there is one other option that would be to move the bus stop to the position on Brickyard Road where this access is at. Again, we've got the issue of children walking through that trail area. People use those trails, but we've got the same concern. It's just a little bit better spot on Brickyard Road whereby the sight distance and the width of roadway and the conditions are better. But again, those are things that the city and the school bus, school district needs to address, not us as staff or the city staff.
Well, that comment, I kind of disagree. I think it is somewhat up to you to contact the school district and talk about that, especially since it's been brought up as a concern.
But we can do that. We can contact them.
Okay. So with that, sounds like we got a few things to work out here. One is the stream buffer waiver, approval of the preliminary plat. Just like a little direction from the commission as well as the staff, kind of how to address all of this, please. So I guess, Joe, I'm kind of looking for your guidance here.
So if you guys want to make a recommendation to move this on to council, then I think you can just do that and let the waiver issue sort itself out, because it would have to be done separately anyway. And then if you don't, I mean, there's some comments about the green infrastructure and storm detention. You could continue it and ask the developer to see what they can do with regard to that and show it to you all before you pass it out of CPC onto council. At least that would give Luke and his group some guidance because they know what CPC approved as far as infrastructure. It may also give the developer the opportunity to, having heard your feedback, take into consideration some of the things that you said today and provide a response to you. You can do either of those, whichever you prefer. I don't think there's anything you need to do unique or special if you do want to move it out of commission today.
And then just to add to that, Joe, if we were to continue it, that would give time for them to talk to the school district about the bus and maybe resolve that a little further.
Yes, that and the ability of looking at green infrastructure in lieu of detention basins may open up some land that could be utilized for lots that could get some lots out of the floodplain. Potentially, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know if the developers even looked at it, but what it gives them is an opportunity to tweak the plan a bit and maybe gain additional improvement responding to your concerns and with regard to both the green infrastructure and development in the floodplain.
I would be for that suggestion.
Agreed.
Also be supportive of some delay until some of these questions are addressed.
Okay. Any comments? Anybody else?
I agree. I think I'm, as we've all kind of stated, hesitant to approve houses in floodplains. So I think making this an even better plan would be beneficial to the city and also the future residents. So.
Okay.
I agree with our earlier commitments of wanting to pass out projects that were really ready to go. So if we hold this and have them come back to answer some of the concerns we raised, we will be consistent with what we've done with some of our earlier projects as well. So I agree with holding it.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Somebody want to make a motion, and with the motion on the continuance, I think we just need to be clear what we're looking at for the applicant and city staff to consider.
Is there a time frame that the developer and the city staff would recommend to the commission to hold?
Mr. Chair, since what I was suggesting would potentially include a plan revision, well, yeah, it would definitely include a plan revision. I would think a month at a minimum, but I do think you want to hear from the applicant on that as well.
Yeah.
It just depends on what we're looking at doing. A month should be enough time to accommodate a landscape plan. I don't see Land Development Division waiving stormwater detention on this project, but we can certainly add some green amp element to it in the form of trees. The bus issue, I don't know that we can resolve that in any time frame, but we can certainly discuss it with the school district.
I don't think you need to, I don't think we're looking at waiving stormwater detention. I think there's just different ways you do it through green infrastructure. Mr. Hathaway, that's all.
It's easier done on a commercial private parking lot. In this case, we've got a public street that has a minimum requirement of asphalt paving and curbs and gutters, and there's not a lot of opportunity in a single family subdivision for green design elements. Parking lots, we can use impervious pavement and brick pavers and bioretention swales in parking lot areas, but we're pretty limited here. But we can certainly add landscaping to the plan.
I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of it, but I have seen it in other cities. So if you can I think if you can just have a look at it with your landscaping and come back and give us your analysis, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I think the month meeting from now would be June 7th.
That's correct.
Okay. So I'll take a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue. Are we doing this without fee?
Yes.
Without fee to June 7th. Case 4.1 and 4.2. Are we hearing 4.2? Are they together?
Yeah, they're companion cases.
Yeah.
And so if you don't mind in your motion, make it clear what you're looking for staff and the applicant to actually take a look at before they come back.
I want them certainly, I think we want them to look at green infrastructure, how they're going to incorporate that into the landscaping versus detention ponds. I think there's also, what are we looking at on the, are we looking anything on the floodplain for them to consider?
I think there might need to be a discussion with the city council on waiver of that. If not, you know, what they're up against.
Okay, so discussion with the city council over the month on the waiver of the, what is it, the floodplain?
The
clarity on the stream buffer.
Stream buffer.
Clarity on the stream buffer, and also for them to talk to the school districts about the bus stop. Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Bruce, could we just add an exploration of meeting the 500-year floodplain requirements that they study to see if that's a possibility and how they change the topography on that?
So how do you want us to say that?
I think just study topography. I don't necessarily want to dictate that they have to do it, but just study the topography for compliance with 500-year floodplain.
Okay, and study the compliance of the 500-year, is that right, floodplain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there should be 4 conditions we're looking at.
Okay. So I've got a motion to continue the docket item to January or June 7th with the intent for the owner or the developer and the city to look at green infrastructure versus detention and how we can incorporate more green infrastructure in the stormwater management or combination of both. Second thing, contact the council representative and discuss opportunity for waiver of stream bank or stream buffer conditions on this. The third item, coordinate with the school district on the bus stop. And the fourth item, take a look at the grading to see if there's an opportunity for providing the homes up above the 500-year elevation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So I've got a motion and a second, including all of that stuff. Lisa, can you take roll call, please, on continuance of docket item 4.1 and 4.2?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, so it looks like the motion passes then to continue the docket items 4.1 and 4.2 to June 7th with the intent of the developer and city to coordinate and look at those 4 items discussed. We appreciate your time, and it's really nothing against the actual development itself. I think it's just looking at the stream buffer and the flood elevations and just protecting the houses the best we can as the development occurs. So thank you for all of that and your patience in this. So we'll talk to you then on June 7th.
Very good.
Okay.
Matt, I'll be in touch. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and move then to docket item 5.1 and 5.2.
Docket item 5.1 is case number CPC 2022-00019. Request to approve a rezoning from District M1-5 and R80 to District M2-5 on about 105 acres at the northwest corner of East 155th Street and Interstate 49 for the I-49 Commerce Center. Docket item 5.2, case number CPC 2022-00025. A request to approve a development plan for the same piece of land, which also serves as a preliminary plat to allow for 1.3 million square feet of office and warehouse development on 3 lots at the same location. Olufu Agbaji is the staff planner.
Thanks, Joe. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. I can see it. Well, it went black on me, or blank.
It's blinking, going in and out, so.
Yep, still blank. There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. It just kept blinking. Hey, Joe, if you can please promote Chris Holmquist with Olson. He is the applicant for this.
I promoted Grant Polly and Tyler Anderson has raised his hand, so I'll promote Tyler.
All right, thank you.
Good
morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Plan Commission, Olufu Agbaji City Planning and Development staff. This next companion cases takes us a little further south to where my arrow is pointing, south of 150 Highway and I-49. As a closer look at the location, again, I-49 is to the east of the site, so it's actually on East 155th Street, about 1,000 feet west of 155th Street. As you're aware, this is the Center Point Intermodal Facility, the old Richards Gabawa Airport. And here is an area with recent activities or recent approval that's been granted by both City Plan Commission and the City Council. So the site, as you see, start in yellow at the northwest corner of what I'll say I-49 and East 155th Street. To the north of the site, you had approved, last year we approved the I-49 Industrial Center. And we also approved, this was approved, I think, by CPC back in June. And then in October, we approved the I-49 Industrial Center North. A little to the west of that is the Center Point, and northwest of the site is NNSA facility in Richards Gabawa Airport, which is all a mixed-use industrial. To the south is the Odessa auction, south of East 155th Street, and that's within the city of Belton. So this is the recently improved East 155th Street, and this view is looking east with I-49 in the background, and the site, as you can see, is to the north of East 155th Street. And this is looking west towards the airport, old airport, and the site is to the right. There are 2 companion cases before you today, and the first is a request to rezone, and they only want to rezone 105 acres of the 275 acres from District R80 and M1-5, and they would like to rezone that to M2-5. And they also want approval of a development plan, which also serves as a preliminary plat to allow for 3 industrial lots and then allow for the construction of about 1.3 million square feet of industrial warehouse logistic facility. One of the major issue we have was location of parking along the public right of way. As you're aware, we've done this through the industrial park to make sure that those trucks and parking are properly screened as required by the vehicular use screening section of the code. This, again, I say serves as a preliminary plat that creates 3 lots and 1 tract, and I'll show you on the plan. The requested rezoning is consistent with the recommendation of the Martin City Area Plan Future Land Use Recommendation, and the requested zoning is also consistent with the surrounding zoning. So, this is the proposed plat and the proposed plan. So again, they are proposing what would be a public cul-de-sac to terminate right at lot 2 to then serve lot 2. They also, as you can see, lot 1 and lot 3 will have frontage on the public street, which is East 155th Street. So the main issue was how we address the parking along the public street. From the view, you see there's some berms along East 155th. Where we are most concerned about is where the berm comes to grade. You can see this plat also with the 1 public street proposed 2 additional driveway with cross access easement to allow for just truck movement within the area. Again, this is the address, the proposed landscaping along East 155th Street, and there's also some berming component that will go with that too. The proposal is your normal tilt-up concrete panels with, I think they have about 5 different tones, and then with accents and offices along the areas where you have offices. Again, there's accents within these areas. With that, staff's recommendation of the first case 5.1 is approval without condition, and of 5.2 approval subject to the 30 corrections and condition. That ends my presentation, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to city staff regarding docket items 5.1 and 5.2?
Olafu, is the parking in line with city code, or is it excessive?
It's in line with city code. This does not have excessive parking. It is in line.
Thank you.
Olafu, stormwater questions again. It looks like, according to the plan that we received, that there's a stream buffer outer zone that overlaps with the north end of the parking and building 2. Can you speak to that?
Yes, you are correct. There is a stormwater, and they did provide a stormwater stream buffer plan in conjunction. They provided a preliminary one. I'm trying to see if I can pull that. I did not include the entire package in what I sent you, just because it would have been the package was too large to send. So, and there are stormwater, so I'm going to try to. And the stormwater shown currently, I'll go back to my presentation. Is on tracks A.
And we don't, there you go.
So the stormwater detention, as you can see within track A, there are 2 detention basins, and this is the stream, existing regulated stream. There is a stream buffer that's been submitted. The overall parcel is about 275 acres, so they are only rezoning 105 of those at this corner, just next to the railroad track. That leaves the remainder of the site undisturbed, and then contiguous to the existing facility. If I go to the map, so they are only staying just south of the regulated stream, which cuts through this area. And then all the remaining site will remain the same, with access of Andrews and Butts Road for eventual future development.
So I think the plan that I'm looking at from the staff report, and maybe the applicant can speak to it, is there's a gray area considered the outer zone impact area, which is 4.67 acres. And there's a portion of that is interrupted by the parking and building too.
I'll let the applicant and Luke and Amy probably speak to that. So.
Okay.
If it was, again, same questions probably as the last case, was there any discussion between green infrastructure versus detention ponds? Again, they look like they've got some area to do something there that could put a green infrastructure feature into it.
No, we did not discuss that. I think we were focusing more on just trying to do this stream buffer plan, the preliminary stream buffer plan.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission to the city staff? All right, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant to this case.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Olafu, if you wouldn't mind, could I steal the screen share from you? Thank you. All right, is that visible to you guys?
Yes, and Grant, you're part of the developer, if that's correct?
Correct. So I'm Grant Polly, obviously, and I'm with North Point Development, 3315 North Oak Traffic Way, Kansas City, Missouri 64116. So I'll be brief in my comments. I know Olafu did a good job with this and hitting a lot of the things that I would like to speak on as well. Just as a quick overview of who we are as North Point, for those of you who might not know us, we were founded in the greater Kansas City area roughly 10 years ago. In that time, we've grown to have a national footprint of about 122 million square feet, with 20 million square feet of that here in the greater Kansas City area. We're obviously incredibly proud of our Kansas City roots, as everyone from Kansas City is. And Kansas City remains our largest market, despite our expansion across the country. As a developer, we employ a long-term hold strategy. So the vast majority of the buildings that we built in Kansas City over the last 10 years, we still own and maintain. And so obviously we have a vested interest in making sure that our parks are a success long-term and work with the existing neighborhoods, neighboring properties, and infrastructure associated with that. In the Kansas City region, here's just a quick map of where we're involved. In Kansas City, Missouri in particular, we have our two parks, the Three Trails Commerce Center, as well as the Blue River Commerce Center, which is the former Bannister complex that we've redeveloped or in the process of redeveloping. And then obviously our third one would then be the I-49 Commerce Center that we're proposing today. For this specific project, we're looking at a 1.3 million square feet that's located on approximately 105 acres. We think that this proposed development works for several reasons. First, from a zoning perspective, it's consistent with the surrounding uses, both in Kansas City and then across the Kansas City boundary into Belton is around like zoned properties. And then, as Olafu mentioned, it's also consistent with the 2020 Martin City area plan that had keyed this area as, or identified this area rather as proposed or future industrial use. And then from a practicality standpoint, as Olafu also noted, it's right next to I-49 with its recently improved interchange that was completed in 2017. And is along 155th Street, which was improved more recently the spring of last year, that improved it to a divided 4-lane road. Commissioner Allender, I would point out to you specifically that as part of our development, as part of our designs, we will comply with KCMO standards in the MARC manual, and that includes green infrastructure such as native vegetation swells and infiltration basins. In addition to that, as a company, our directive has been to find ways that we can be more green and be more conscious of our impact on the environment. And as such, we are now pursuing LEED certification on all of our buildings. Just as a quick visual to touch on what both Olafu and I have mentioned in terms of the surrounding zoning and then 2020 Martin City area plan. As you can see, here's our property here with the existing zoning around it. The M25 is very consistent with that. And then as we cross into Belton, we have an industrially zoned and then commercially zoned properties immediately across the street from us. And then just to touch on the 2020 Martin City area plan again, this pink is proposed industrial use that was identified as the appropriate use for this land moving forward. Some quick renderings of buildings that we have, actually not renderings, actual pictures of buildings that we've constructed around the country. Nothing out of the ordinary from what Olafur showed. And then on the interior of our buildings, we have a mix of, as he noted, office uses that support some of the light manufacturing or e-commerce shipping operations that occur in our buildings. And at that point, I would open up for questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
So Grant, there'd be no issue for us to just put a condition into that you'd be looking at green infrastructure, infiltration basins for stormwater management?
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Okay, great. Thanks.
A question that maybe Commissioner Sadowski can help me out. Will these, with the LEED certification, will they be effectively solar ready moving forward?
So the solar would be a separate component. It is something that we are exploring. Obviously, solar is a little different depending on the market you go into, but one of our other directives is to actively and aggressively pursue solar wherever it's feasible. So that would include these buildings. But the LEED certification itself is more with the actual construction of the building and the efficiencies within the building itself. But we are considering solar as well.
And I assume this is a spec industrial, so you're not quite sure who your tenant.
That is correct. So our first would be spec. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I typically ask that if we can be EV and solar ready, especially if you don't know who that tenant is. That's oftentimes something that's more and more being asked by tenants to have that capability. So not necessarily that you have to install the PV panels, but that it is ready for that if needed in terms of the electrical load.
Okay. Commissioner Sadowski, did you get your question answered about the north side of Lot 2?
Yeah, I wanted to ask on your site plan, it just mentioned that there was this area that looks like the outer zone of that area is from the stream buffer is interrupted by the building, by building 2. If you could speak to that.
Certainly, and I would actually tag that over to Tyler Anderson with Olson, who managed that design. So,
yep.
Sure. My name is Tyler Anderson with Olson. We're at 1301 Burlington Street, North Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah, we've worked through the preliminary stream buffer plan as far as this submittal, and we're also working towards the final stream buffer as part of kind of our building 1 package. Yes, that outer zone was impacted, and we did work through those mitigation items. A majority of it is just into that, but the infiltration basins that we have on the north and west portions, that was the main disturbance to that outer zone, but all was within the regulations and percentage of disturbance and kind of reestablishing through that the city requirements.
So just because of our last case, I just want to make sure I understand, are you needing a waiver on the stream buffer easement, or you're within the?
Nope, we are within current compliance. Okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I just clarification on the detention basins. So they are infiltration basins you've already designed.
That's correct. Yeah. To meet current requirements for BMPU, that best management practice, there'll be an infiltration component in the bottom of the stormwater ponds, as well as throughout the site. We'll be utilizing what's called treatment trains, which will allow water to infiltrate into the ground as it's progressing to those ponds rather than just being directly piped. So yes, we've already looked into those, and we'll continue to through our design.
Great, wonderful, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead.
I just had I wondered if you could speak, since you are going after LEED, is there an energy performance you're going for in terms of being above code efficiency?
Yeah, I don't have the specific details of that in front of me. That we have frankly a smarter department in our company than me that works through those technical challenges. But I will say that our directive has been very firmly go after LEED for every single building, and that's getting to the end of my LEED knowledge. So
that's all right. Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. So if there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 5.1 and 5.2, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add on this, Mr. Polly or Anderson?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so this time we'll go ahead and close all testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Motion to approve docket item 5 with conditions.
Okay, so 5.1 has 0 conditions and 5.2 has conditions. I didn't even look, see how many, just to make sure you understood that. 30.
Okay, so approval of 5.1 with no conditions and approval of 5.2 with 30 conditions as stated.
Chairman, do you want us to add the condition to look into green infrastructure to make it 31?
Sure. I'm okay with that if you're okay with that. And with the addition of condition 31 to explore green infrastructure in addition to detention basins.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder.
Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of 5.1 and 5.2 with the added condition on there. So Lisa, can you take roll call, please?
Yes, who was that gave the second?
Mr. Rojas.
That's what I thought. Okay. Commissioner Allender?
Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Beasley?
Aye.
Crowell?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Rojas?
Aye.
And Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes 7-0 for approval of docket items 5.1 and 5.2. Thank you for bringing it forward and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you. Much
Yep.
appreciated.
Okay, Joe, looks like we're ready for docket items 6.1 and 6.2, please.
Docket item 6.1 is case number CPC 2022-00028, a request to rezone from District AG-R and R-7.5 to District R-1.5 on about 22 acres located at the southwest corner of Missouri Highway 152 and North Platte Purchase Drive. And companion case 6.2, case number CPC 2022-00029, request to approve a development plan which also acts as a preliminary plat to allow for the development of case apartments, which includes 333 units at the same location. Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, Chairman Crowell and fellow commissioners. I will share my screen here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. As Joe mentioned, this is docket item 6.1 and 6.2. This is a companion case. 28 is for the rezoning and 29 is for the residential development plan with a preliminary plat. Just overall, that, like I said, this is a rezoning, and then additionally the development plan for the 341 residential units spread over this 22-acre site. It is located in the northwest quadrant of the city, just south of 152 and west of North Platte Purchase Drive. Here's a aerial. As you can see, to the east is the fairly new Costco, and the project site is located directly west and south of 152. This map shows the zoning. There is a little bit of R-7.5 currently, and then the site is predominantly zoned agricultural residential. So the applicant needs to rezone in order to build the proposed multi-unit housing. Just to give you more context, this is if you were leaving the Costco and looking west into the site. You can see that the city has recently improved North Platte Purchase Drive, and the signals are constructed to handle future development. This is looking north from 87th Terrace. So directly to the north is 152, and off to your left is the 22-acre site. This is a little bit farther west on 87th Terrace, and I just wanted to show you that the site is undeveloped. So this is looking north. And then this is from, if you were to exit from 152 and head south on North Platte Purchase, I wanted to show you this photo to also to give you familiarity with the 152 trail that is on the north end of this development. So there is a lot of cyclists and pedestrian activity over here. Here is the site plan. It's 28 buildings throughout this 22-acre development for 341 total units. There is a connection, I can use my cursor. They're providing a connection to the trail on the east end of the site, as well as another connection to the trail on the far west end of the site. It was really important that the site doesn't isolate itself from the public amenity of the trail, and the applicant did a good job of working with staff to allow the public to cross through this site. I also wanted to include the landscape plan. This is a fairly large site, so it doesn't give a great detail at this scale from your screen, but the applicant is providing more landscaping than what is required by code. And they even made a note on their plans, as they start filling in with landscape, they plan to continue to exceed the amount of landscaping on this site. Not only is it good for the environment and the city's image, but also it makes it nicer for their residents and more enjoyable. I did want to bring up some conversations that happened since the theme today is stream buffers, and staff worked with the applicant. When 152 was constructed, it made this natural stream really no longer a natural stream. The stream that is shown on these maps is really an open ditch. And for fire access on this site, the applicant worked with land development to allow for a access for fire safety on the northern end of what once was a stream located on this site. This will require approval by KC Water prior to any site disturbance permit being issued. We just want to make sure staff and the applicant that everyone is on the same page between city planning and KC Water to permit this access road. The next is 2 conditions. The applicant reached out to me yesterday that need to be removed. It is related to the street improvements and also related to the preliminary stream buffer plan. The street improvements, as you saw in my earlier slides, they've already been completed. So that is why LDD or land development has allowed for number 12 to be removed. Number 26 is also removed because the applicant did submit a preliminary stream buffer plan. Another condition that the applicant really worked with staff on is there was recently the new ordinance passed, I think Andy Shively gave the presentation, allowing detention within stream side or middle zone of a stream buffer. So the applicant is again working with KC Water to have this approved by KC Water prior to final council approval.
So just real quick on that, are we looking to modify number 40 or remove it?
No, it is staying on here. I was just wanting to state that the applicant has been working with KC Water with that new ordinance that was passed. And since we've been discussing so much about stream buffers today, I just wanted the commission to know that between KC Water and city planning, we've all been working together on that new ordinance that was passed.
Okay.
There is currently a traffic impact study. It has passed the city review, but MoDOT is still reviewing the traffic impact study. So we have placed conditions that the applicant take care of before really any certificate of occupancy can be issued. And this is all pending MoDOT's review. And this is to protect the city just because we don't know what MoDOT might recommend. And then I wanted to provide you with the elevations that are proposed here. Like I said, it's 28 different building types. So I did not include all 28 building types, but they are using earth tone colors, brick, hardy siding, plenty of windows. This is the clubhouse. And then the staff recommendation for the rezoning, which is number 28, is approval without conditions. And then staff recommendation for 29 is approval with conditions. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to city staff regarding docket item 6.1 or 6.2?
Andrew, I want to make sure I'm understanding. So are they held to the stream buffer easement, or because you made it sound like that was not really what was going on there?
Correct. Because on our city maps, it still shows a stream. And I think you've seen this a lot, at least in my short time here, that there are some streams that show up on our maps and our data that are no longer streams. And I have Travis Kiefer on the line, and I would also like to defer to him.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe a follow-up question is, if that is not actually what's happening there, then is there an easement required? Or what would be the process there?
Yes, yes, it's not a matter of removal or waiver of the stream buffer ordinance. It's a matter of interpretation. There is a trail that crosses that at just north of where that road crossing is. And so most likely this will include an extension of the culvert that's under that trail to accommodate the roadway that they want to put in. And then condition 40 addresses the detention requirement, and so that it must comply with ordinance 220322, which is the ordinance that was passed a couple of weeks ago that made revisions to 88415 regarding stream buffers and what could be constructed in stream buffers and how that approval process is done at this point in time. So,
okay. I'll let the applicant sort of elaborate. This sort of a similar question to the last application, which is that outer zone area and the relevance to what that means for the stream easement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions to city staff? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant for this case.
Commissioner Crowell, it's Patricia Jensen with the Rouse Fretz Law Firm.
Yeah,
also, good. Also on the line should be Case and Associates, Justin Dixon and Scott Case that should be promoted, as well as Dan Tanner. He is the engineer of record on the site. And Commissioner Sadowski, before I really go into my presentation, I will say that our preliminary buffer zone plan has respected all of the requirements of the stream side zone, the middle zone, and the outer zone, and we're in compliance with that ordinance. The one issue really deals with that road crossing on the north side. I believe it complies with the stream buffer ordinance, but also as Travis Kiefer and Andrew Clark have testified, we've been working closely with water and city planning to address any issues dealing with that. So now I'll go into the largest presentation, which is, this is of course a great apartment development for people to have some housing choice located in this area. This is actually the second project that Case and Associates has done in Kansas City, Missouri. The first one occurred at Tiffany Springs Parkway and North Oak Traffic Way. It's called 9700 Oak. So they've completed that project. They're moving on to their next one. They've also been doing other projects in the metropolitan area. It really provides for 341 apartment units. You can see the detail has been paid attention to in terms of the architectural elevations, and then providing amenities for its residents on site, as well as connections to the city's overall trail system. As Andrew has stated, we are in agreement with all of the conditions, except that we requested of him yesterday that he remove conditions number 12 and 26, which both he and Luke Casper has agreed to do. I think if Dan Tanner is on, he can address any of the stream buffer questions you might have. Commissioner Allender, we are paying attention to green infrastructure. They have certain systems installed to separate out any waste that comes in this area, and Dan can explain that more fully, as well as providing more plantings in the detention areas. So with that, Dan, do you want to provide any additional testimony?
Can you hear me now?
Scott or Justin? Yes, everybody can hear you.
I'm Dan Tanner, 5323 South Lewis, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am the civil engineer for the project at Tanner Consulting. So yes, we have spent quite a bit of time studying the ability to increase impervious areas and incorporate additional landscaping, all in pursuit of higher water quality standards. We do have preliminary calculations showing that we're in compliance with the required level of service under the MARC manual. We do have preliminary work showing that we're attenuating peak flows from stormwater management point of view. And as Patricia was pointing out, one of the things that we are incorporating to meet those water quality standards are hydrodynamic separators at our discharge points, and that will pull the trash and to some degree some of the silts and solids that the system would otherwise deliver to the water course. On the clarification of the stream thread, I think Andrew did a good job, and Travis, in commenting that the construction of 152 on the north obliterated the stream, and then the construction of 87th Terrace on the south obliterated the stream. We do have a small remnant in the middle of our project where water is delivered to us to the surface, and then it's captured again in a storm sewer that disappears into 87th Terrace. We have delineated the remainder of that stream thread. We've had Terra Technologies provide a riparian assessment of the trees related to that stream thread. And I think we have a pretty effective stream buffer plan that staff has certainly seen and commented on. So I think we've done a lot of background work here, and we're certainly available to make further comments if you should have them. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
I guess I just want to be super clear. So like on the plan that we received that showed the stormwater zones, that outer zone is over the 1900 building. Can you just speak to that particular spot? I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what I'm looking at.
Yes, we have done the math to show that we are within the allowable 40% reduction of the outer zone. And as we get into our final plans and development of our retaining walls, that'll be clarified in the final documents.
Okay, so sorry, just to, and maybe you said this already, but the requirement is that in those outer zones, as long as you're less than 40% disturbed, is that?
That's correct.
Before mitigation is required, yes.
Before mitigation, okay. Okay, that helps me better understand that. Thank you.
Patricia, back to you.
No, that's it. I mean, you're correct. We're allowed to disturb up to 40% of the outer zone.
Okay, any other questions from the commission to the applicant? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up then for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there from the public that would like to speak regarding docket items 6.1 and 6.2, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one is raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else, applicants, you'd like to state regarding this project? It looks like a great one.
No, Mr. Chairman. I will say we did have our public engagement meeting and the school district participated. They were the only participant.
Okay, good. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, then we'll go ahead and take a motion, please.
I would just like to thank the applicant for looking at the landscaping and providing more landscaping being required by code, and their work done on stormwater management as well. So I appreciate that.
I just want to add that the architecture was really well done. So I appreciate the way they've approached that, and the quality of the materials and the massing. It's really nice.
Yes, okay. Any of you want to give a motion, please?
So are we deleting 12 and 26 according to staff? Is there no other conditions that we need to change?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll move to approve 6.1 and 6.2 as stated on the doc with conditions, or is 6.1 without conditions?
6.1 has 0 conditions.
Okay.
And 6.2 has 43.
Okay, I move to approve 6.1 without conditions, and I move to approve 6.2 with conditions, deleting 12 and 26.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item 6.1 and docket item 6.2 with removal of conditions 12 and 26. Lisa, can you take roll call, please, on that motion?
Yes. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes for approval of docket items 6.1 and 6.2. Thank you for bringing them forward, and good luck as you do the projects.
Thank you all.
All right. Yep. Okay, so that moves us then to docket item number 7, please.
All right. Docket item 7 is case number CPC 2022-00044. Request to approve a development plan, which also acts as a preliminary plat to allow for a multifamily residential development consisting of 304 units on about 20 acres located at the southwest corner of Northwest Inglewood Road and North Mercier Drive. Andy Clark is our staff planner on this one also.
All right, thank you, Joe. I will share my screen here. All right, as Joe mentioned, this is docket number 7, CDC or CDCPC 2022-00044. This is again a development plan, residential development plan with a preliminary plat, roughly at 1229 Northwest Inglewood Road. This is again located in the southern portion of the northwestern quadrant of the city, at pretty much 169 and Northwest Inglewood Road. You can see it is highlighted here. I wanted to show you the existing zoning along with the aerial. It's a B3-2, and it is located just directly west of 169. This is a view looking southwest from Northwest Inglewood Road, and Inglewood Road is a boulevard, if you are unaware, and I will get into more details of that as my presentation continues. We are looking south from North Mercer Street here, and the proposed development will be on both the left and the right. This is an important shot. This is looking east from Northwest 55th Street. And the applicant is required by code to continue the street. It will connect to North Mercer. So I just wanted to show you, this is the existing condition of Northwest 55th Street that will be connected to North Mercer. And here is a second entrance to the development. This is a little bit farther east on Northwest Inglewood and North Summit. So this is really close to 169. Here's an overall site plan. I highlighted some important features. We can start from the left. The applicant is providing a pedestrian trail that will connect Inglewood to Northwest 55th Street. It's really important with Inglewood being a boulevard. Also, it will help serve better pedestrian connections to the school located on the northwest or north side of Northwest Inglewood. Highlighted along the top of the page are the setbacks. I highlighted those. Those are required for the boulevard and parkway standards. So the applicant is meeting the setback. They are also screening the parking lot away from the boulevard. So when you're walking, riding a bike, or driving on the boulevard, you do not see the parking, or very limited amount of parking you're going to see. And they're also providing pedestrian connections from the boulevard. And in the bottom right-hand corner is the Northwest 55th Street extension to North Mercer. I wanted to provide the landscape plan. The applicant is meeting code when it comes to the landscaping. They also, street trees were already planted along North Mercer. A few are being removed for the ingress and egress points for the future buildings or proposed buildings, but the applicant is replacing the trees, the few trees that they are removing. I wanted to provide you with the elevations here. These are 4-story buildings, and the pitched roof is to match the character of the surrounding area. Also, good visibility with plenty of windows, balconies. It's accommodating and welcoming design here. The applicant, upon further review, the zoning here is B3-2, which I brought up earlier, and highlighted. B3-2 only allows a maximum building height of 45 feet. For the applicant to match the character of the surrounding properties with the angled pitch roof that they are proposing, it pushes them beyond the maximum allowable building height. So they are seeking 3 deviations. The east building, they are asking permission to exceed the 45 feet by 13 feet. And then the north and south building will exceed the 45 feet by 9 feet. These are granted by council, but I wanted to run these by the City Plan Commission as well and make you aware of this. The reason why these are necessary is not only to match the character of the area, but if they were to follow the 45 feet, you would lose roughly 1 3/4 of a story. So let's round up to 2 stories of units that would be excluded from this development if they were to comply with the 45-foot height. And then these are rough renderings showing where the architect did the math of what deviations the applicant needs on the building height. Staff does recommend approval with conditions, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Andrew, can you just let me know, as part of Kinsley Forest, what was really originally approved for this area as part of the overall master plan development?
It was originally going to be, I believe, 6 retail buildings right there on Northwest Inglewood. And then I'm sure the applicant can speak if I have anything incorrect here, but you know, when 2020 hit and changed pro formas, the retail idea was removed from this overall plan, and then they moved towards doing just simply residential here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commission to city staff?
I have a question. I'm still trying to orient the buildings to the map with the boulevard standards. I guess my question is, I understand what the impact of the deviations are for the developer. My question to staff is there any impact to the boulevard standards in future development with this development having such like 13-inch building height deviation for like future development that will come?
And anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but my interpretation is that it would not negatively or adversely affect the Boulevard and Parkway standards, especially when you look at Mill Creek Park or Broadway, when you're going to heading south on Broadway and those large apartment buildings. Those are well over the building height. Well, I don't know the zoning by heart. I could be incorrect. But having tall apartment buildings near a boulevard, it gives you that sense of enclosure. And as a pedestrian, it's a more pleasant experience than something that's maybe 1 or 2 stories. I hope that gives you some answer. And the most important thing is screening that vehicular use area, especially in this suburban context. It's without this being a boulevard, I think we probably would have seen a design where the first thing you see is parking instead of a building from the street.
Andrew, I agree with your comments completely. I just wondered if you could comment on, since this is, it sounds like it's probably more density than the neighborhood has had because of the building height. Can you talk about the area plan and what was envisioned for this area?
Right. So the area plan called for, I believe, I'm pulling up my staff report. I was waiting for you to ask me this.
I'm going to ask about the area plan.
So a recommended mixed use community. And that, when I read the area plan, it does mention an element of retail, but it also is based upon the zoning. And the B3 zoning, it does allow for intense retail, not intense uses, but the density. And then this project does comply with the density allowable in the B3-2 zoning district. The only thing that it does not allow for is the building height to exceed 45 feet.
Okay.
Commissioner Sadowski, this is Joe. This project does extend the Kinsley Forest Development Project, extends all the way eastward to 169. and westward to Bell Street, which is about a quarter of a mile west of this site. So it included some single family over there along Bell Street and some townhouses that are directly to the south of this project. There are additional apartments which also required a deviation to the building height, located further south along Summit Street. And then the remaining retail areas are primarily where the intersection of Summit and Inglewood are. But Andy summarized earlier that it was more widespread up until the amendment in 2020 when they reduced the commercial floor area in exchange for the apartments at this location. So this is just a part of a much larger development that is a mixture of uses.
And Joe, you're saying the retail is at what intersection now?
It is between Summit and 169.
Okay.
And I don't know, Andy, if you have a map that you can show that depicts where that's located. But he had a photograph showing the intersection of Summit and Inglewood. But there are several pad sites there that are allocated for retail use. They have not been developed yet, but that's what they're allocated for.
Do you have a rough idea how far that is from this project?
It is about a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
So that area, what he's showing now, where you see the dirt between Summit and 169.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The retail area.
Yeah.
And then the residential are the two pink areas highlighted on his map. And then the apartments with the deviations that have been built are, you can see those right there, Andy.
I mean, I would consider that mixed use community if it's within a quarter mile of those commercial zones. So even if the retail wasn't in that project site specifically. So that's all I have.
It appears from the staff report that you all are also okay with the excess in parking spaces because of the pickleball court and pool. Where would is that in the garage, the additional spaces? Is it? Thank you.
As I've only been here 8 months, but I've been making it a point to state it in every staff report I do when parking exceeds the minimum requirement, just because we have too much parking in this city. So that's why I made that statement, and thank you for reading the staff report. They do exceed what the minimum requirements, and there are some garage spaces, but I said, especially here on this lot one side, that it does exceed because I'm thinking it does make sense in this case. If you're having friends over to go to the pool or play pickleball, they're probably friends that don't live there and probably live within a distance that they can't ride their bike on the bike lane on Northwest Inglewood. So that's where it does make sense to have parking that exceeds the minimum requirement for those amenities if their friends are coming over. I hope that answers your question.
Sounds good to me.
And on lot 2, they did a very good job of really being right around the minimum requirement and not exceeding it.
Andy, I'm just going to stick on my theme today. Looks like it's a detention BMP. Do you know what type of BMP they're looking at from a detention?
No, I do not. And I also saw this BMP up here as well. It's Dustin Burton promoted. He is the. Okay, thank you.
We can wait until the
applicant's
presentation. That's fine.
Yep. But at least the trees to the south of here were saved with the extension of Northwest 55th Street. So that is something that they did.
Okay, any other questions to city staff? All right, so let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then. So if the applicant's available.
Yeah, Dustin Burton with RIC. I'm at 400 East 17th Street, Kansas City, Missouri. And yeah, thank you. We should have maybe a few others joining us from Roseman Associates on the architect team, and then some of the ownership group might be raising their hand as well. Thank you to staff for the comprehensive and the overview, as well as kind of their help as we kind of get to this point. I don't know if I've got much more to add other than just to kind of touch on Commissioner Allender's question on the BMPs. Commissioner Allender, we're actually looking at kind of 4 BMP/green infrastructure packages. We've got 2 rain garden type BMPs that are kind of in between that pool area and pickleball area. And then the primary detention basins are actually going to function as a water quality element as well. We don't have those fully defined, but it looks like those will either be a infiltration basin or potentially a bioretention basin. So that those will be sized to handle that water quality. And then above that, it'll be for purely the detention efforts that are needed by code. Beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that staff commissioners may have.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners to the applicant?
No, I'll just make a comment. I just want to thank the applicant for looking at incorporating green infrastructure for stormwater management. That's great.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there from the public that would like to speak regarding docket item number 7, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add, Mr. Burton? And I see Mr. Roseman's online as well. Okay.
No, sir.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close testimony then and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Move to approve docket item 7 with conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and approval for docket item number 7 with the 38 conditions. Lisa, can you take a roll call, please, on that motion?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
And
Okay,
Commissioner
looks
Hill,
like-
did you say aye?
Here.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 7-0. We appreciate you bringing it in and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got 2 items left. Is everybody okay just to press ahead, or do we need a short break before we move on? Keep going? Okay. All right, let's push ahead then. We'll go with docket item number 8, please.
Docket item 8 is case number SUP 2022-00005. This is a request to approve a special use permit for a school known as Holy Cross Bright Futures Academy, located at 121 North Quincy Avenue. Jared Clements is the staff planner.
Good morning, everyone. Give me 1 second here. All right, so before us, we have docket item number 8. This is case number CD SUP 2022-0005, located at 121 North Quincy Avenue. The zoning district is R2.5 and B1-1. The applicant in this case is seeking approval of a special use permit to allow for additional school buildings, a school building that also includes a gymnasium within it. They have met their public engagement requirement earlier last week. So the subject site is located here. It's within the boundaries of the Truman Plaza area plan. More specifically, it's between St. John Avenue and North Quincy. Oh, excuse me, it's on St. John Avenue between North Denver Avenue and North Quincy Avenue. The existing site is outlined in yellow. It's also the location of a church and a school. And you can see in the blue is the proposed site for the new building. So this is just an image of what the proposed building will look like. It's called Bright Futures Academy. The image on the lower portion of the screen is from North Quincy Avenue, viewing east, and the image above is from to the rear of the building, viewing west. This is the general site plan. You can see here, the applicants are seeking variances to setback requirements. Those will be considered by the Board of Zoning Adjustment as part of the proposal. Staff did ask the applicants to provide greater landscaping to act as a buffer between the residential area and the proposed new school, which the applicant did provide. After other discussion with staff, the applicants also provided landscaping to screen the vehicular use area here that's on North Quincy Avenue as well. Right now, it's just grass, I believe. Staff has reviewed the above criteria and found that the application generally meets all applicable review criteria for a special use permit. The only outstanding thing is that on the lighting plan, it's currently not compliant. Staff has included a condition for the plans to be corrected prior to building permits, so that should be handled later on. So staff recommends approval with conditions. The two conditions that are of note, most of them are standard for me, are the lighting plan that I just mentioned and an administratively granted alternative compliance for parking. They have enough parking for either use, and both uses, one occurs during the week, one occurs generally on the weekend. So staff did administratively grant that as well. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Okay, thank you. There's no time limits on this special use permit, right, Jared?
There is not, no.
Okay. All right, any questions from the commissioners to city staff? Okay, so let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then.
Good morning. I'm Taylor Main, Garcia Architecture, 508 West 75th Street, Kansas City, Missouri. There's nothing much to add to Jared's review of the plan here. We agree with the conditions on the report so far, and I figure what we think.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? All right, seeing none. So let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there is anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding docket item number 8, please raise your hand and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, I promoted Jeremy to Woodward.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you said there.
Jeremy Lillig.
Okay. Hi, Jeremy. As you come off mute, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Jeremy Lillig, 16 West 34th Street, number 3A, Kansas City, Missouri, 64111. I'm the executive director of the Bright Futures Fund, seeking the variance. Looking forward to this project. This will add 40 new spots in our early childhood center. The Historic Northeast has been identified by several organizations as kind of what an early childhood desert. So this will allow us to help address those needs in the community. Our average household income is $16,000. So we serve poor families, helping them to succeed and move on to high school and college. We have a 99% graduation rate, and we have programs to enable them to attend quality schools all the way through career.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do as well.
This building will help us to enable us to do our mission more effectively and essentially provide more space and opportunity for our students.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else, Joe, that would like to speak from the public?
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close then public testimony. Mr. Lillig, as far as I'm concerned, I consider you part of the applicant, so you're welcome to stay. Anything you'd like to add to them, that'd be great. Or if not, we'll go ahead and make a motion then. Yep. Anything else to add, applicants?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then at this time, we'll go ahead and close testimony and speak amongst the commission. If there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve docket item 8 with conditions.
Okay, so I've got a motion. I've got a second from Commissioner Sadowski. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 7-0. Again, thank you for bringing it in and good luck moving forward.
Thank you.
All right, so that takes us to docket item number 9, please.
Docket item 9, case number SUP 2022-00012. A request to approve a special use permit to allow for a bed and breakfast on about half an acre at 206 East 44th Street. Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Good morning, everyone. Last case, it should be fairly straightforward. Okay. As Joe mentioned, docket item number 9 is for a special use permit to allow a bed and breakfast at 206 East 44th Street. The site is generally located in the Midtown Plaza area near Mill Creek Parkway and just northwest of the Nelson Atkins Museum and northeast of Country Club Plaza. Here is the subject site outlined in yellow. It is located in an R-5 zoning district and sits at the corner of East 44th Street and McGee Street, just north of the Art Institute here. The primary building on the site in the center is a residence, and then there's also a carriage house to the rear, which is difficult to see on this aerial. But I also plans. Here is a site plan provided to staff by the applicant. Again, here's the residential building in the center. It contains 8 rooms. They plan to have 8 guest rooms, which is the maximum allowed in the code. And then also per the code, it is required that the operators of the bed and breakfast reside on site. So the owner operators plan to reside in the carriage house to the rear. They are also providing 4 parking spaces, which meets the code requirement. And as you can see, there's both pedestrian access off of East 44th Street and McGee over here. Here's a street view image of the building. It's located within the Suthermoreland Neighborhood Historic District. And then here's another street view. You can see a little bit better the carriage house in the rear. Staff has received multiple notarized letters that I plan to also show the Board of Zoning Adjustment. This one in particular was written by the president of the Suthermoreland Neighborhood Association. So there is neighbor support for this project. Lastly, here are the criteria of approval for the special use permit, and the details of the project's compliance to the criteria are discussed in my staff report, and staff recommends approval with conditions for this special use permit. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to staff regarding docket item number 9?
I have a couple of questions, and it might be better suited for the applicant when they come on. I was initially thinking, what's the maximum number of days a guest can stay? And then also, what's the maximum guests that this bed and breakfast would allow?
As far as number of days, I believe we treat the bed and breakfast similar to like a hotel use. So we have a couple of different uses I think we need to keep straight here. We have a short-term rental use, which this is not, the bed and breakfast use, which this is, and hotel use, again, which is not. And the stipulations on that really have to do with serving like food on the site to the guests. And so I would think of it sort of like a hotel use where you're just staying for a couple of nights. This is not like a long-term rental, you know. I know oftentimes we get questions for like traveling nurses. They stay for extended periods of time. This is, to my knowledge, not the intention for this business here. And then the code allows up to 8 guest rooms in the bed and breakfast use. And the applicant, Ryan Heiser, is with us, and they're also open to questions.
Thank you.
So can I ask, is this already an operational bed and breakfast? Because I read an article on entity and I'm confusing myself on what's being presented. Is this already functioning?
I think I would defer to the applicant for that. I can inform you there's a little bit of history on this site. They did receive a short-term rental certificate. So the property was originally registered. They went through those paths, and then upon speaking with city staff and describing actually what they were wanting to do, we decided that that really wasn't what the short-term use allows for. Again, like I said, it's mostly serving food to guests on the property, which is not permitted with the short-term rental use. So as far as operational aspects, I will defer that to the applicant.
Thank you.
Any other questions for city staff? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and welcome the applicants.
Hi, you guys. Hi there. I'm Ryan. This is my partner, David.
Hi there. Good morning. So my name is David Tran, one of the owners and resident of 206 East 44th Street. And this is my partner, Ryan Heiser, also at 206 East 44th Street. Just to kind of give a brief introduction and a background on us. We've lived in Kansas City for a number of years now. We lived in the Southmoreland neighborhood for about 4 years. This is our primary residence. It's just the two of us here. I've been working as a pharmacist, and that's kind of my background. Ryan is a family and couples counselor. In January, I had a cancer diagnosis, and that's kind of prompted a little bit of a change in the way we live our lives and the way that we want to spend our time working. And so that's what's kind of prompted us to make this transition to turning our primary home into a bed and breakfast. So to answer your question for one of the commissioners, it is not currently an operating business. We did have a short-term rental permit.
We have a short-term rental permit that for the carriage house. However, to make the house viable, since David is not going to be able to work as a pharmacist full-time, our idea is to turn the main house and we would live in the carriage house. So it's kind of just flipped that around. But so we, and so that kind of makes the property viable for us. So it also helps his health, so he doesn't have to be at a pharmacy with his diagnosis and unneeded stress. We really appreciate your time in considering this, and it's something we'd really love to do. And we really love the neighborhood. And right to the west of our property is the office building. It's an old house. It turned into an office building for the Kemper Art Gallery. And they've also sent a letter of support. And so has the Art Institute. They've given a letter of support too.
So it's been really important to us. We've lived in the neighborhood for 4 years. We consider ourselves, very good neighbors, and we know, we like to get to know everyone. We have also worked closely with our neighbor to the north as well, to make sure that we're continuing our relationships with everyone and maintaining the property within the neighborhood.
And the neighbor to the north also has a letter of support attached to. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicants?
Just one question, because the issue about food, like, are you guys required to get any other, certification to be able to serve breakfast and what I would imagine lunch?
So it's just breakfast. And so what happens with the use on that is you go through to get your business license. You have to go through all the proper licensing to do any of that. That's correct.
And then to answer your question earlier, you had asked about the occupancy. We allow we're working with our architects, but what is the maximum allowed is the 8 bedrooms. But we typically allow 2 guests per room. So 16 is the maximum occupancy, to answer your question from earlier.
Thank you. And will you have parking available to support that? I guess it would be 8 cars theoretically.
Yeah, so currently we've worked with our architects in terms of meeting, code compliance, which is the 4 parking spaces that are provided.
Well, it looks like a beautiful home, and I can imagine there will be plenty of folks that will want to stay in the neighborhood, walking distance to gallery. So, looks like a great project to me, and I wish you all success. It'll depend on the commission. The only thing I would just highlight is the special use permit is 5 years. I would imagine you guys are going to need a staff or some kind of additional support to maintain it. So that's the only thing, if the commission thinks 5 years or 3 years, but looks like a good project to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Okay. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding docket item number 9, please raise your hand and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, thank you. I had to wait for the plane to fly over because it's quite loud while I muted myself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony. And so just bringing up Commissioner Hill's thought about the 5-year special use permit. I don't have an issue with the 5 years. Does anybody else from the commission have a statement on that? Okay. So anything else to add, applicants? I take it that's no. So I'll take a motion, please.
I move to approve docket item 9 with conditions.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 9 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes for approval of docket item number 9. We appreciate you bringing it in and good luck as you move forward. So I imagine your next step is the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Okay, thank you. So with that, I believe we're done with our cases. Does anybody have anything that they would like to discuss or add?
I was wondering, the presentation that was made last time that I missed, I still need to watch on YouTube, or the lot and building standards. I was wondering when that approval was going to happen.
At this point, we believe that we will be in a position to bring it back to you guys for your consideration on May 17th.
Okay.
It's possible it would be the first meeting in June instead of that. Which date it'll be will depend upon the outcome of the additional public engagement. I believe we have one meeting tonight and one meeting Thursday night. And then a couple more meetings after that with various neighborhoods about it.
Okay.
Joe, can you remind me again, when is the water department coming back or actually giving a presentation to the planning commission on their stormwater policy revisions?
The staff people that we had been, that had scheduled to come have asked to circulate back to their department management first before they commit to a new date. And I have not heard from them yet. So I don't know, but I will follow up again.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
All right, anything else? Seeing none, I appreciate everybody being here today and enjoy looks like the sun is going to finally poke out here, hopefully for a little bit. All right, see you next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.